welcome to the Holiday and Cruise Clinic. I'm Jemma Gofton with another edition of the programme that aims to make your next cruise or holiday as problem-free and relaxing as possible. So if you have a holiday, cruise or travel-related question, here's how to get in touch. So you can search for us on Facebook and Twitter. Just put in Holiday and Cruise channel and you'll find us. You can also send in your questions to our website. That's www.holidayandcruisechannel.co.uk. Or what about posting us a letter? The address is the Holiday and Cruise Channel, Cavendish House, Brighton Road, Liverpool L22 5NG. Now, in today's programme, we're discussing river cruise holidays. Have you ever wanted to sail down the Rhine or up the Danube, take a trip down the beautiful Moselle, or enjoy a leisurely trip down the Main with breathtaking views from the comfort of a river view cabin or on the top deck, passing historic cities, traditional towns and quaint villages along the way? Shearings Holidays offer a choice of river cruise experiences, and here to tell us more is Michael Bowers. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. I'm a novice to river cruising, I'll let you know, so okay, my questions may be a bit inane, but bear with me. Who goes on a river cruise?
Well, typically it's people that are sort of 50 plus. It's couples, it's small groups, sometimes large groups as well. But it's people that are very destination-led. River cruises typically sail right through the heart of countries, as you said, past villages and towns and cities. So it's people that want to go and explore those at leisure and get the most out of their week or 2 weeks away, really.
Now, when you said 50 plus to me, then I was surprised, because in my head I would have thought it was maybe a little bit more mature person. Has the age lowered, have you noticed? It has,
really. I think you're still going to get a mix of age groups on a ship, but that actually creates quite a nice ambience, actually. So, you know, you get people from different stages of life, all with different reasons for going. But the age group, I think the generations have shifted. You know, 50, when I was growing up, my grandparents were 50, 55, 60. They were really quite old, to be honest. They'd been through a war, etc., etc. But the ones that are sort of 50, 60, 65 now are much younger. In their outlook on life and in what they want to do on holiday. So in that respect, it's changed. But I don't expect it to drop down to 40s and 30s and 20s.
Well, you're saying that. I'm just in my 40s, she said, lying. But actually, this is something that does appeal to me, a little river cruise. What about children? Is it suitable for children? It's
not really, certainly not in my experience anyway. I've never been on a river ship where there have been children on. Whilst it's very leisurely for people who want to relax and go on holiday, I tend to find that there's not a great deal to do on board for children or in the resort areas themselves, to be honest. So I'd say no, not really for children.
What's the main reason for taking a river cruise, do you think?
It's for that intimate experience of travelling right through the centre of a country or several countries, or the attractions that lie there. For example, you might love flowers and want to go to Holland in April or May to see the Dutch bullfields, that kind of thing. Or simply go on a wine tour and enjoy wine down the Rhine or the Moselle valleys. But it's really about the destination. The ships are important because you are on the ships, the food and everything, but it really is to explore that region in an intimate nature.
Now, this could be a terribly ignorant question because I'm not au fait with all the rivers of the world.
Okay.
But when we're saying a river cruise, to me, I'm thinking, have I always got a view either side? Have I always got something to look at? Because if you're in the middle of the ocean, there's nothing to look at, really.
No. You have. I mean, typically, when you're sailing down a river, from your guest accommodation, your cabin, however you'd like to phrase that, every cabin has a window. Obviously, it might be higher up on the ship or lower down, depending on where you're booked or where you choose to stay. But you'll only see one side. So you mentioned earlier about seeing the world from the deck, and really, certainly when the weather is nice, which is, let's say, most of the time, that's the place to be. That's because castles don't typically just stay on one side of the river. They may be on both sides. So to get the best view and to get the best experience, it needs to be on the top deck, on the sun deck, either playing a game or just reading or having a drink and relaxing and seeing the views from there, really.
And how does a river cruise differ from an ocean cruise?
On how long we got?
22 minutes exactly.
22 minutes exactly. OK, well, The main difference is size, I'd say. You typically, certainly with our brand, you're looking at 100, 120 people typically be on a river cruise. And on some of the bigger ships, you may get 1,000, 2,000, even 3,000 plus now, I understand. So that's quite a big difference. So dining would tend to be one sitting, and there'd be no sort of queues to get on and off. You never really need to tender on a river ship because you berth at the side of the river. Sometimes there might be one or two ships stacked side by side, but then you just walk through, and then it's nice to see a different ship actually, and walk through and walk to the shore. You don't tend to get the big shows that you would get on a big ocean ship, mainly for physical space. You know, the ships, they're not quite as narrow as that, but you've got typically a cabin that side, a hallway and a cabin that side, so they're much smaller than obviously the bigger ships, so they don't have the physical space.
And does that lead then to people having a more intimate experience? You get to know your passengers, you get to know the people who are looking after you. You're all experiencing the same things, so you can, at the end of the day, like you say, sit on the sun deck. And does it just give it a more intimate feel? It
does, because some people choose to go on excursions when you're in port. Some people choose just to wander off. So you don't all have the same experience. And you've got a chance, if you're with someone on an excursion that you're not seen for the first 2 or 3 days, you'll probably even go and have dinner with them, or certainly sit down and have a coffee with them and talk about the day. And people do, it's sociable people that go on these sort of holidays, so you know, you're not forced to come over and sit down and have a sing-along or anything like that, but you do sit down with different people and meet new people.
Let's be vulgar and talk about the cost and the expense.
Okay.
I don't know if it is an expensive thing or not an expensive thing. I've never known the price to river cruising. So is it good value for money? There
is a nice range. And sometimes you do hear people thinking it might be a bit expensive, but the capacity on the ships is so small, and there's typically not a great deal of requirement to discount. So, you know, it's definitely good value for money. Let's talk about food, my favourite subject. Okay. That is after cocktails, but we don't need to talk about cocktails today. But about food, because cruising, ocean cruising, hand in hand, fabulous food. That's what everybody goes for, isn't it? So what about river cruising? Well, it's very similar. Obviously, the ships are smaller, the kitchens are smaller, but the food that you get is absolutely fantastic. I was on a vessel last week in Strasbourg, and I was on there for lunch. So lunch was, you went up to get your own salads and the cold foods, that kind of thing. But then you were also asked from a menu what you'd like for a hot meal for lunch, and that was delivered so people could have different things. And then the desserts were, as you'd expect, all various shapes with, shall we say, things protruding, chocolate things, etc. You know, just that fancy stuff that you would expect on a ship. And you also get the gala nights where you get the 5, 6, 7 course meals on gala night or the captain's evening. So the food's wonderful. The food really is wonderful. Can we meet the captain? You can. I'm obsessed with meeting captains, by the way. Well, that doesn't surprise me. I'm sure firemen as well, if... firemen, policemen, whatever. If that's the case. But no, the captain wanders around the ship, and there's a captain's table, and people can dine with the captain if they want to. Obviously, there's less people for him to see on a river ship than there is on a big ship, so you've got more chance of having a chat if you want to, even if you don't dine with him. Just a quick question about dietary requirements, because perhaps if you're enclosed and you're a bit panicked that you're celiac or you're dairy intolerant, can you be catered for, and do people need to know ahead of time? Oh, yes, they can be catered for, but yeah, absolutely always be inform the agent yourself about the requirements so that we can look after that, but it's not a problem. It's not a problem. Let's talk about now excursions, because I guess that people book a trip because these are the places that they want to visit. Yes. Do people just go off and do their own thing, mainly? Some do, and that's one of the nice things about it. Certainly with our brand, apart from Russia or China, which is arguably a little bit harder to just go off and do your own thing, we don't really include the excursions, because we find that people either look before they travel and they book them up on the days that they want to go, or they'll see what it's like when they're there, and they might choose to book an excursion on the day or the day before. Or, as you say, because you are so close to the centre of everything, just wander off and do their own thing, really. And when it comes to excursions, and you're obviously a seasoned traveller, if you were having a taste, this was the first time you were doing it, and you wanted to get a taste for it, how long would you suggest they should take, just so they can go, either I love this or I loathe it? Well, I think there are some 4 and 5 day cruises that are obviously shorter in duration, but I would say I'd look at it as the destination really. For example, even if it's a 9-day holiday to the Danube, you're going to see on that 9 days, you're going to see Vienna, Bratislava, Linz, Passau, and Budapest. They say so seasoned I've forgotten the main attraction. So you're going to see that all in the space of 9 days. So that's 5 fantastic cities that if you went on individual breaks to those, that's 5-6 weekends itself. So I'd say look at where you really want to go rather than think, is it for me? Because it's all about destination.
That's what will make you fall in love with it.
Yeah, all about destination.
OK, quick break, don't go anywhere. Plenty more questions for you, Michael.
Look forward to them.
Now, if you're new to cruising, then this is our first time guide to cruise holidays. It's well worth asking for. It's absolutely free of charge. Just give us a call, 03330 032 216. Now, calls will be charged at standard network rates. You can also ask for a copy through our website, www.holidayandcruisechannel.co.uk. And whilst you're asking for this, we'll take a quick break. See you shortly. Welcome back to the Holiday and Cruise Clinic. It's lovely to have you with us. Now, in today's programme, we're discussing river cruising, and Michael Bowers is still with me. Now, this might be, as I said, I don't know much about river cruising, so is this a really simple question? How do we actually get to you when I want to find my river cruise?
That is a very good question. Some people actually, some customers ask, do the river ships leave Dover or do they leave Hull? It's like, no, they don't.
That would have been one of my questions.
Well, yeah, but
I'll just take that one off.
Yeah, no, they don't. So there's a great way. The beauty of river cruising, you can choose how you get there. Really, most offer the option of air, rail, which is becoming more popular, but also coach as well. And the beauty of coach is that people can get picked up from 300 or so different places around the country, and they don't see their bags from then until they get on board ship. So there's a nice choice of how to get to the river ships.
So it's all planned for you. You don't need to stress about that at all, really, do you?
No.
Now, the stress that I do get is tipping.
Okay.
Now, I know it probably isn't across the board the same rule.
Yeah.
But is it compulsory? Do I tip every single person I speak to and every single person who passes me something?
It's a very good question, and that's another thing. The British are actually very good tippers, but we just like to know what we're tipping for, and it's something that I always say to people. I think the different ships have sort of different styles and different amounts that they recommend, but it's ultimately discretionary. And so if you feel like you've had a good time, then at the end of the cruise or during it, whatever you want to do, then you can do that. But it's certainly not expected, and there won't be those awkward lingering moments when you've got your drink of someone looking you in the eyes and waiting. So there's nothing to worry about on that front. At the end of the cruise, there's an envelope in your room which is blank, no room number, nothing. If you want to put something in there, then that's entirely up to you. Obviously they'd like you to, but it's not forced at all.
The other thing that stresses me is dress codes for things. When I get a dress code wrong, it ruins my night.
Yeah. So,
is there a dress code for dining on river cruising?
I think no. It's river cruising is quite informal, really. I'm sure there are some ships and some brands where there are occasions where you may need to dress up a bit more, but typically it's informal. I mean, it's nice not to wear. Customers are encouraged not to wear vests or sort of shorts at dinner and that kind of thing. And there may be one night where it's a captain's night or a gala night where certainly the ladies like to dress up, and gents might wear a jacket or certainly shirt and trousers. But it's typically and the market that we operate in, the 50 plus 60, 70 market, they like to sort of dress to a certain level anyway, really. So
really what we're saying is smart casual, as you would dress to go to a nice restaurant.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go in your shorts and flip-flops to a restaurant. So don't do it.
No.
Put a shirt on, please. Yeah. See, I like getting dressed up, so I'd be all about the getting dressed up.
Yeah.
And then people who book to go on river cruises, are they a bit more outdoorsy, do you think? A bit more want to see, want to be walking around, want to do?
You'll get that element, but you'll get some people that may have been... There's a lot of loyalty to ships, really. I mean, I've been on some ships where people have maybe been 10 or 11 times.
Really?
Yeah, so they may have even done that itinerary. But, and of course, ships change rivers in different years, so they're not always doing the same thing. But so you get people that might nip off here and there, but really they like the ambience of the ship and they like the crew, and they feel comfortable on there. So no, not really. I mean, city breakers, people that like to nip in, maybe do a bit of shopping, have a beer and a coffee and dart back, which is why it's good on Christmas markets, that kind of thing, because people can do that without unpacking and repacking. But no, not really.
So you don't have to, because I would have thought you had to be outdoorsy, so it doesn't matter if you just like a leisurely stroll and a cappuccino somewhere.
Absolutely.
That's your bag.
20 yards from the ship.
Yeah. Let's talk about accommodation, because you know, wherever we lay our head and all that, that's quite important to us. But you've already flagged up that it's not particularly wide, because you've got cabin that side, something in the middle, cabin there. Yeah. So what we're going to get accommodation-wise? Accommodation,
well, they do vary. I saw a ship last week in Strasbourg, the one I went on, and they had two sort of large cabins at the back and had a nice balcony area where they could have a bit of a soiree in the evening or a drink. The rest of the cabins on the top deck had full Juliet windows, floor-to-ceiling windows, 2 seats, comfortable chairs rather in the room, hotel beds, and a bathroom that had every bathroom had a bath and a separate shower as well. So, that's quite unusual on river ships, but typically they are maybe not as big as some suites on ocean ships. There will be some brands that do have that, but it's all about being comfortable, having enough space to store, being able to get ready together, but it's all about really being outside and on the deck and in the public areas, really. And maybe just socialising. What about currency? How do we pay for things? Obviously, we know how we pay for things if we're out and about. Yeah. Well, it's simple. You pay, you get a card or your room key, depending on how that works. You pay for everything as you go along on that. And you usually get a receipt that tells you what that transaction was and a running total as well, so you can just be sure where you are. And then at the end of the week, you just pay that with your credit card, really. So the prices can't run away with you. You know where you're at. Yes, that's the key thing. You know what your running total is. Let's break down typically facilities on board a river ship, just for people who might be thinking, well, what if I get bored, or what can people do? Yeah. Well, you mentioned when we first started that sometimes on a big cruise ship you maybe have not a great deal to see because you may be at sea, but typically you'll stop a couple of times a day on a river ship, so you've got the chance to get off if you want to, or at least see different scenery. Oh, so sorry, you will stop a couple of times? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, see, I'm thinking we're just there and then we stop one day and there and we stop another day. No, you may drift off during breakfast if you're sailing that day, so that's quite nice, actually, just, oh, hey, up, we're moving. So you're having your breakfast and the scenery's moving beside you. Which is nice. And then may drift into somewhere before lunch or after lunch, go on an excursion or just a wander if you want to do that. Then back on board. So some people say stay on board and read or just play a game. But there are facilities. There are usually some sort of gym equipment. I saw one last week that had one of those giant chess sets that probably took 2 people to move. That was the gym. That was the gym. A little putting green on there, sauna, table tennis table, a gym downstairs inside, a library. So there are places, certainly things to do on board. Well, if you've just flagged up that actually you're probably not on for that long, are you? In between these fabulous places that you're stopping at. No, you do stop, and that's quite nice because that's the beauty of it. You literally do see the countryside drift by. And as we're drifting by, do we sail in the evening? It depends on the rivers. I'd say 80 to 85, maybe even more % of the time, you will be sailing through the day because the whole point of a river cruise is to see the place that you are. But on some of the longer rivers, so going down the Danube, if you're going to the Black Sea, for example, then you may have the odd overnight because there'll be some distance to travel. But no, it is typically during the day. So at night time, you're moored up, is that the correct term? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Good, I got it right. Which gives you a city centre hotel in many occasions, be it by a village or a town or a city. You are really quite close most of the time. I think it's always nice to see a city or a place in the evening as well. It's a different vibe, isn't it? Absolutely,
so you really would get a nice taste of it. You could go and have a local drink and wander back.
Get the lights and that's the entertainment, really.
Well, entertainment if you were on board, is the entertainment chatting to your fellow guests of an evening? Well, it can be, but usually people do tend to congregate from the dining room through to the bar and the lounge area. And
There is entertainment. It varies by different ship and different company, but it's often a local musician that's brought on board. There'll be dancing because customers do like to dance, so most ships have dance floors. There may be quizzes, that kind of thing, but it's not often the full upbeat thing that you get with the full productions that you get on cruise ships, again because of the room. But no, the entertainment is there if you want it, but typically it's outside.
You might not know the answer to this, but I was just wondering, as you were saying about, you don't get the big laser light show with the West End dancers. Yeah. Do the type of people who like to cruise on rivers also like to ocean cruise, or are they totally different people?
Well, it's a good question. Again, there is overlap. I think the people that are more likely to go on rivers are those, again, that are more destination-led rather than... Because for some people, these cruise ships are quite amazing now that are going out there into the oceans, and so they're resorts in themselves, really, with all the different options they've got to entertain yourself and your family on. But I'd say people that have maybe been on a lot of cruises and are maybe looking for something a little bit different would maybe look for a river cruise. People that really do like city breaks may go for a river cruise. And then people that like the smaller ships on the seas or the oceans may look for a river cruise. But I think it's more about those that want to see destinations.
Is there a great time to do a river cruise? And obviously it's probably sort of which destination you're choosing, but if we wanted fabulous sunny weather...
Yeah, well, Europe can get extremely hot in the summer, as I'm sure we all know. If you want to go further afield, obviously, you've got Africa, you've got Russia, which also gets hot. You've got China, Mississippi over in America. So there are plenty of places to go. But then, of course, don't forget spring, because you've got the flowers. You've got the Dutch bulb fields. You've got Christmas and New Year. It's lovely to go on a Christmas river cruise, and people often back to back those, so they stay on for New Year as well. And then you've got the Christmas markets and the lovely autumn scenery. But then if you go to somewhere like Venice and the Po and the canals around Venice, you've got the Venice Carnival. That's February, so it's not going to be really hot, but it's got that event there which people do travel from around the world to see. So there's often something to see.
Do you think that perhaps this river cruising has made travel and opened the world up a little bit to people, because perhaps you wouldn't have felt secure to go to the Mississippi on your own? Yeah. But the security of having somebody know that you're there, here's your itinerary, back on board at this time, then we set off. Yeah. So do we think that cruising in general really has made it a little bit, us feel more safe?
Oh, very much so. It's opened up new destinations, and it's similar to touring in a way, in that respect, that you can go places, for example, like Russia or even Northern Africa, where you may not want to go on your own or with your wife, but you think, well, I'm with 40 people or hundreds of people, then it's going to be something that I can explore safely. Not that anything's going to happen, but
sometimes it's the security, especially. I mean, I'm speaking from a parent's point of view here. As you get a little bit more mature, you don't want to be stranded somewhere or panicked somewhere, and if you know that you're being looked after, people feel a bit more secure. In your opinion, as our seasoned traveller, best river for your first time?
For your first time, again, it's tricky because it depends on what you want to do, but I would say I'd say the Rhine or Danube, really. Purely because the Rhine's very romantic. It's got a 60-kilometre area that's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There's just castle after castle after castle just dripping off the cliffs, and it's a beautiful thing to see. But then the Danube, you've got those classic, the triumvirate of cities. You've got Bratislava, Vienna and Budapest. But then it's all about experience as well. I did a Dutch bulb fields and battlefields tour a couple of years ago, and to actually go and see some of the war graves, some of the battlefield sites, that was very interesting, and because not a lot of people get the chance to do that, so it opens up those avenues as well, really.
Well, thank you for letting me know all about river cruises, and our viewers as well, because I knew very little before, so I'm fully informed. Thank you so much for your time, Michael.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Now, just a quick reminder about this before we head off. It's our first time guide to cruise holidays. It's absolutely free of charge. Just give us a call, 03330 032 216. Calls will be charged at standard network rates, and don't forget you can also ask for a copy through our website, www.holidayandcruisechannel.co.uk, where you can also get in touch with your questions for future programmes. So That's all we've got time for on today's edition of the Holiday and Cruise Clinic. My huge thanks to Michael Bowers, and thanks to you for watching. See you next time. Bye.